It is 7 o'clock. We are a quorum. I'm going to call the meeting. This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the Tuesday, August 11, 2020 work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
Thank you. If we could now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Council members don't have to stand. Mr. Bornlocker can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ted was supposed to do the prayer. I won't quite do a prayer, but, Mr. Chase? Councilman Chase? Are you ready to do the invocation?
To do what? The
Invocation? If not, I can say something.
No, I'm not. I didn't know I was doing the invocation, and I don't have the text in front of me.
Okay. By the way, we are live. I will say something. This is a very stressful time. I see it in my patients. I see it in my friends. I see it in myself. And my supervisor sent out a letter to the group. And I think the wisest thing he said in the letter was, we just need to be kind to each other. We need to realize each other is stressed. We need to look for ways we can help each other. We can look for ways to get out of each other's way. But we also need to look to forgive each other. If someone is angry, more angry than they typically are, there's probably a reason for that. So if you can, watch out for each other, and that's how we will get through this. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Councilman Embarrasson, Councilman Chase,
Here.
Councilwoman Francois,
Here.
Councilman Galtieri,
Here.
Mayor Kramer,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Onijaka, Councilwoman Pruitt,
Here.
Councilman Vasanella,
Here.
Councilman Wright.
Okay. We have commendations and proclamations. The first I will do, it's committing Councilman Embarrasson had a conflict. He should be here later, but he asked me to read it. I then realized the names on there are ones I cannot pronounce. I would do a disservice to them. But I will read the rest of the commendation. And this is about a concert that they had to raise money for the food bank. So we, the members of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, New Jersey, wish to thank the members of Jawala for holding the virtual Bollywood music concert on May 9th, 2020, benefiting the food bank of Franklin and raising $24,000, which was matched dollar for dollar. Thank you. The next commendation is in support of celebration of the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois, if you would like to read that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It reads, whereas the year 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, guaranteeing and protecting women's right to vote. And whereas this centennial offers an opportunity to commemorate a milestone of democracy, that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the federal or state governments on account of gender. And whereas New Jersey has had a long, storied history in the suffrage movement, with New Jersey women playing a crucial role in pursuing the rights of women to vote. And whereas in 1867, New Jersey residents Lucy Stone and Harry Blackwell organized the New Jersey Women's Suffrage Association, the NJWSA, devoted to gaining women's suffrage. And whereas in 1912, state referendum on women's suffrage was soundly defeated in the New Jersey legislature, and whereas in 1915, a second suffrage constitutional referendum was pursued in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, with active campaigns by many suffrage organizations, including the passing of the Torch of Liberty via tugboats on the Hudson River from New York to New Jersey, but was defeated in all 4 states. Whereas Alice Paul, born in New Jersey, was a founder of the Congressional Union and the National Women's Party, NWP, the wing of the suffrage movement that focused on achieving a federal amendment and led the picketing of the White House from 1917 to 1919. And whereas in 1917, New Jersey women were among those arrested in front of the White House. And whereas on June 4th, 1919, Congress finally passed the 19th Amendment guaranteeing American women the right to vote. And whereas on February 9th, 1920, New Jersey became the 29th state to ratify the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. And whereas many Black women in the United States were excluded from the franchise through discriminatory practices such as literacy tests and poll taxes even after 1920 ratification of the 19th Amendment, that finally secured the full voting rights with the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Whereas the New Jersey State Federation of Women's Clubs missed an important opportunity to help advance the suffrage movement when it failed to endorse a 1915 resolution in support of suffrage, and now the Franklin Women's Club, a member of the contemporary NJSFWC, would like to honor the achievement of New Jersey suffrage by encouraging women and men of New Jersey to register and vote in record numbers in 2020. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that our Mayor, Philip Kramer, of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, urged the residents of the township to honor the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing women's right to vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're now up to public discussion. Do you have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are now open for public session. Mr. McLean will, if you can usher that, people will have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Anyone from the public wishing to speak that is in through the computer, under the chat window, you will see a raise hand feature. We ask that you raise your hand. We will then call on you. Once you have spoken, we ask that you lower your hand. We are asking anybody that is dialed in on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 once we have called on you, and you have spoken, you can hit *3 again to lower your hand. So anybody wishing to speak, please indicate now. Mr. Mayor, we have one person. It's a call-in number. I will unmute them at this time. All right, caller, go ahead.
Caller, the first 6.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Kramer, Councilman and Councilwoman, Bob, and those present on the call this evening. My name is Lorinda Harper, and I reside at 164 Churchill Avenue with my mother, 1L Harper. This has been our family home for the last 46 years. I'm calling in this evening to state my ongoing concerns on the record of multiple attempts to secure an answer and solution to the ongoing flooding of our backyard due to a faulty swamp that's installed by the church next door, which is Triumphant Community Church, which is at 160 Churchill Avenue. And this has been happening since 2017. So the property at 160 Churchill was a warehouse building with trees on the left and a small parking lot on the right prior to the church occupying this facility. Since then, the trees have been removed, an additional parking lot was paved on the left, and a wall was built to help any rainwater drain back out onto the street. So instead of the water draining back out into the street, it drains right into our backyard. So prior to this, and this is why I'm calling, we had no flooding, regardless of how many rainstorms we had or how much water accumulated behind our fence alongside the railroad tracks, which is owned by Conrail. Let me repeat, we had no flooding on our property. So I went to the engineering department back in March of 2018, and I let Shaw Keller, our engineering inspector, know about the pools of water, which is very stagnant, smelly. I told him about the pond scum that's associated with that water, and not to mention the trees that have been loosening up from that water and falling from the Conrail property onto our property, damaging our fence. So since then, I have taken pictures. I provided them to Ms. Keller, and we opened up a claim with our insurance company to cover the repair of our fence and the removal of those downed trees. So since then, Mr. Keller has came out in early April. He spoke to the pastor of the church, which is next door, and talked to him about the faulty swallow. And like he advised me, it needs to be corrected. So since then, I have taken pictures of every flooding, documented all of my email conversations with Mr. Keller, Mark Haley, Scott Thomas, our flood specialist, and I've also spoken to Darren, the project leader at CME. And I've also taken an initiative to contact Conrail to come out and clean up the brush and debris that's accumulating behind the drainage ditch. So right now, the water is still backing up, and we can't repair our fence because the trees are still falling. I understand the church has a bond open with the township that is still open until the project is 100% complete. So they've been given a punch list to the storm drain system. So in the event of any rain, the water flows properly into the structures and eventually makes its way out to the road instead of overflowing into our property. So I'm calling because it's been 3 years. I just would like to know what are the next steps. When are we going to remediate this issue? And I would just like to know why are we being ignored? Thank you.
So, Mr. Manager,
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll just say that Mr. Healy, our Director of Land Use, who oversees the engineering department and the planning department, spoke with me late last week. I haven't had a chance to sit with him again about needing the need to get CME more involved in this particular issue. And one of the problems that I'm aware of is that the Conrail tracks present a problem because the natural way that the water would drain would be out towards what used to be the Tara Greens golf course in that direction. Unfortunately, the berm of the railroad tracks creates a natural dam, and there's going to have to be some solution as to where the water goes. But Mr. Healy's suggestion is that we request CME to escalate it. And as the caller stated, the bond is still outstanding with the church. It's their detention basin. It overflows onto her yard because the natural place for the water to go is unfortunately blocked by the railroad tracks. Everything that she said is very accurate, as it was explained to me last week by Mr. Healy. I know that Councilman Wright also had it brought to his attention, and it was brought to Mr. Healy's attention by Councilman Wright. And so the answer is we need to begin to deal with how we can come up with a solution from an engineering standpoint, and Conrail needs to be involved.
Thank you, Mr. Warnlocker. I'm not an engineer, but I know after 3 years, this needs to be addressed. We've been dealing with those. We can't properly use our backyard, and we would like to get our fence fixed before, another 2 or 3 years goes by. So like I said, we had no flooding prior to the church building that faulty wall. So I would like to see if you guys can work with them and CME to have that repaired.
I think in addition that we need to work with Conrail, because I know that in talking with the engineers about this last week, that it would seem that the most logical solution would be to go underneath the abandoned railroad tracks and have the water drain naturally through a pipe. So that's one of the solutions that's already been discussed.
Okay, great. That's more information that has been shared with me in the last 3 years. So that's why I'm on this call tonight.
Well, I got involved with it. Yeah, I got involved with it last week, so I'm gonna try to get some solution for you.
Yeah. So I have all the emails and everything that I've captured with the engineering team, and I would just like to see something happen, and I appreciate that. We pay our taxes. We're good neighbors. Like I said, we've been homeowners for 46 years at this property, and we haven't had any issues.
Okay, thank you very much. You'll be in touch with Mr. Bornlocker and
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan on that. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kramer.
Thank you.
Caller. If you could hit *3 again to lower your hand. And again, if there's anybody wishing to speak, now please hit *3 via your phone or on the computer. Go into your chat window and hit the raised hand icon on the bottom.
No one else. Mr. Mayor, it appears that no one else is raising their hand.
A motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, and I'm viewing it, seeing no raised hands. All in favor of closing public session, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Those opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public session is closed. We're on to council committee reports. I will do them in order that they are on the screen, although you jump around, so I could lose track. Mr. Wright.
Love you for me for coming to me first. On August the 6th, there was a virtual workshop on Neiman Williams Park and the surrounding area of the community, led by the staff of the Voorhees Transportation Center at Rutgers University. I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget. The Franklin Township Crime Prevention through the environmental design and education of that particular area. The program was provided to look at what could be done in the surrounding area, which includes Hamilton, Boulevard, Mark Street, and all those little environs, so that we could find out what we needed to do, I should say, to keep everyone safe, move traffic through the area, and try to either look at the perceived or real crime of that nature in the park and around the park. For that, on that web-based call, we had a couple of Franklin Township residents and staff. First off was Healy, our township planner. He was there. And for the residents, we had Councilwoman Pruitt. And on the residents side, we had Arnie Schmidt, Ansley Reynolds, Benjamin Guy, and myself. We broke down into group sessions, and when we broke down the group sessions, we discussed the park. Now, there's one thing about the park that I didn't realize. Over where the new play area is put together, and Township Manager will correct me if I'm wrong, Mark Hilly informed us that the reason why it's wooded in that area with a lot of bushes is because they're wetlands. And that would require a lot of movement in that particular area. And Mr. Chips, our environmental man, he would be able to tell you more about that. That's why there's no barrier there. And one of the solutions that we come up with is that if you put more lighting in the area, that might solve some of the issues that you have, because you would know who's in the area. Now, we all know the park that dusk, but that's not really what happens. So what happens is if you put the lights on, it would enhance the area and also move that crime off of that particular area, because the police would know what's going on. And that's the major thrust of what we're doing. Now, on the website, our township manager, Bob Hornlocker, he's looking at what he can do to place it there, because there are a couple of forms that you can fill out and include yourself in the discussion, but they have to be in by, I believe, August the 20th. There are a couple links there that will give you the presentation, the transcript of the presentation, live and written. It will also give you programs, the drawings that were to show you exactly where we're going with this.
Nobody sent it to you yet.
Excuse me? And also, we would like your suggestions, as we would say, so that they would put it all together and come up with an overall box of everything that you would like to see in and around there. For instance, what are the cars doing at the peak hours of park use? Senior citizens, which abuts the park. What are they thoughts about the issue? The people that use the bike path, like I do. What do we see in the afternoon that might cause trouble? What do we see in the afternoon that needs to be done? From, and I talked to the township manager about the garbage cans, and he informed me what happened to the last one, but they used the basketball court in the bottom up on the area. So now when you come by, look at the park, it's dirty. Well, we're looking into putting garbage can back, and also you put a sign, please don't litter, put your bottles in the garbage can. Those little things that you could look at that you do. But again, we're going to have the link on the website. Go look at it, put your comments there. They'll do a compilation of everything that's there, and then we'll give it back to us for us to look at, and then we'll have another webinar to discuss those comments and put those comments that are common sense comments into operation. That's it, Mr. Mayor. And for that, we were there for a half.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could just interject based on what Councilman Wright just said. So I just had a conversation with Mr. McQueen, our IT director, and Safi Callan, a special projects manager who has been kind of the facilitator of that study, grant-funded study, is looking to create an entire individual page on our website for this particular project, and that's where everything will be, and we hope to have that up tomorrow. So look to the website. There'll be an announcement on the main page as to where you can go to participate.
And I encourage everyone to participate, because if you don't, then we won't be able to take this to another park and use it. So if you use us, say, as a test case, you can go to every other park and use this type of thought. Now, it's not just our park. They're doing it all over the state. We were lucky because Mark Healy filled out the paperwork and included us on that study. So I want to thank him for doing that for us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and for council's knowledge, the order being councilpersons Pruitt, Francois, Vasanella, Galtieri, Chase, and then the deputy mayor. So next will be Councilwoman Pruitt.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to report out a few things from our public safety meeting that we just had. This year, we were able to hold our youth academy that the police department hosts. Obviously, with COVID precautions in place, it was a smaller class. It was 18 youths. So wanted to congratulate them for completing their time at the academy. The police department will be rolling out a program called 911I. Essentially, this program will allow you, if you are witnessing an incident, to share what you're witnessing in real time, similar to FaceTime. It is not an app that you have to download. It would appear that you would just receive a text message and you click on a link and you'll be able to share your screen or share your camera so dispatchers can see what you're witnessing in real time. As it pertains to the car burglaries across the township, 10 were charged within these past 2 months. Obviously, just a reminder, please lock your doors and do not leave your valuables in the car. As far as the Community Relations Bureau, I know last council meeting I reported that it would be opening in August. It's going to be pushed back until September. Looks like there'll be some coordination related to the start of the school year. So I'll keep you posted on exact dates. And just a reminder, traffic enforcement is continuing, so please drive carefully and legally so as to not get pulled over. And just a reminder, as I'm going to do until we're out of this pandemic, we are still in a pandemic. Just because you're over it doesn't mean the pandemic is over with you. So please continue to wear your masks, adhere to social distancing when possible, and just be safe and take care of yourself. Give yourself space to be kind to not only your neighbors, but to yourself. It is a very difficult time, as the mayor stated. And as Councilman Wright mentioned, I did participate in the community design webinar, which was very interesting and made me remember some of the criminology that I have forgotten all those years ago when I graduated from undergrad. So that's all that I really have at this time. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Francois.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Foundation had a special meeting last night, of which I was not there, but I know why we met and what we met for. So since Councilwoman Pruitt didn't read it out, I'll go ahead and do that. We authorized the issuance of 2 $5,000 scholarships to our Franklin Township high school seniors. And that money was provided by the Heller Foundation, which is a part of the Franklin Township Community Foundation. So congratulations to those 2 students that received $5,000 scholarships, especially in a time like this. I also wanted to say I have been weekly riding by the youth center, and the steel has been delivered, and the walls are going up. The elevator's been constructed. Things are looking very good. We have a meeting with the service providers next week to talk about all the programs and services that are going to be coming in the building. And there's a lot of work underway right now to get ready for the grand opening of the youth center when we can all get back together again, hopefully sometime in 2021. And also just wanted to remind everybody, it's still time to complete your census. Make sure you get that done if you haven't done already. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman James Fasano.
Yes, had a few virtual meetings, most relevant one being Public Works. And I'm just going to give a little update on the road situation and Councilman,
your mic is booming.
Okay. So I'm just going to mention about the update on the roads. Councilman Chase and Councilman Bill may want to mention a couple of the other items. We had a pretty long meeting. And this year, I don't know if it was because of COVID and we had extra time on our hands or because driving around is something you can do on your own, and driving around looking at roads is a big part of us getting a better understanding and being able to narrow a list down. So basically, I believe the list will be forthcoming at the next council meeting for approval from the rest of the council or majority of council. But we have more than enough roads that need to be done this year. Matter of fact, there was a handful that it was just a toss up of whether to do this year or next year. And even the ones we budget this year, some will be done in the spring of 2021, especially because of some of the delays related to COVID this year. But overall, one good thing that came out of it, and I think all of us put in even more time between driving around, looking at maps and talking to constituents, we probably already have a pretty good blueprint of all of the, or most of the roads that would be in the queue and a high priority for next year. So we may actually be able to provide that this fall, this winter, prior to financial oversight, getting, or as they're getting the budget ready. So we can hopefully have an allocation that is no more than what we need, but is enough to keep up with what needs to be done in town. And we did a really comprehensive review considering everything this year. So the list is a little bit late coming, but a lot of work has been done. There were some other items Public Works covered that Councilman Chase, like I said, or Councilman Will may want to comment on. Other than that, just this, by the next time we meet again virtually as a council, school will already be in place or just starting, pending on the exact date. But although we don't get involved as a council in any of the evolving changes with the schedule and everything that goes along with the pandemic, but we'll mention that things will be different. That more people may be driving their children to school, or obviously the schedules be different. And whatever it is, just take extra time. People will be dealing with a lot of different situations, and along with the stress, as the mayor alluded to in his beginning of the meeting, it's a tough time. So just be extra careful on the road, and be safe and enjoy whatever way possible the start of a unpredictable school year. But I want to give credit to our public school system and the private schools in town for dealing with very complicated and always changing situation. Pandemic. Anyway, that's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Vasanella. Councilman Geltier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to build off of what Councilman Vasanella said, that some of the roads are out there. The repaving should be starting any day now, I think, now for the Willow Ave water main replacement or water main installation from last year. So that will finally be done. And council has taken into account a significant portion of Easton Farms going into next year as well. So road repaving is starting, and beware, Schoolhouse is on the agenda tonight. So that could be in a few weeks that we have repaving out there. One of the other items just that I'll touch on is that we did discuss the concept of the Willow Avenue Park. There's a couple roadblocks in there, but the design is done and would look great and would benefit the residents of the area, but council is mindful of expenses right now, especially in the current environment. So while we did include that in the budget, this year's budget, it's on hold for now. And also we're trying to figure out how to safely have a public hearing around that. So that was discussed. We did review it. There were a couple of recommendations to improve just a few safety features around it, to keep in mind children there. But that was one of the other items. And as far as other meetings, it was already reported on public safety, but a big shout out. I think there's three groups. There's three groups that we have to acknowledge for the Youth Academy. First is the parents that trusted us, trusted our officers, and that they would put together a program that was safe for their children, but still give them some exercise and an experience. To our officers who went well above and beyond this year, who could have easily said, no, we're not doing it. But especially in the current, with the pandemic going on, but a big shout out to them for going above and beyond, and also to our children for coming out and having interest and wanting to see what the Youth Academy was. So thank you to everybody that made that happen this year and continued this on. Did have sewage authority meeting. There's not much to report on that. System's still holding up well and survived another hurricane. So there was actually, I would like to highlight, there was an article published today about how the authority was being proactive and has reduced infiltration of the system and is saving ratepayers money. So a shout out to them, to the authority also. But that was our meeting. We actually were able to hold our meeting within 2 hours of the end of the hurricane. So that's how dedicated everybody was to ensure everything continues to operate there. And finally, just please enjoy the rest of the summer. It's scary that it's already partway into August and the summer is quickly coming to an end, but please enjoy it safely and responsibly and continue to be safe during this pandemic. And please continue, I'll be a broken record, please continue to support our local businesses. They do need your support if you have the means to. We want them there at the end of the pandemic. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Chase.
Thank you. I don't have much to add to what Councilman Wright and Councilman Galtieri reported from the Public Works meeting. I was thinking, oh dear, I don't have anything in front of me about that, but they covered the major topics there. And we're going to have a presentation to the Economic Development Committee on Thursday from Todd Poole, who's a consultant on really on economic development, about what he sees as changes in what business will want after, as the COVID-19 epidemic declines and gets over. For instance, that businesses may, offices may be less centralized, maybe a number of local, relatively local offices rather than everybody being together in one big building. So, but we have that on Thursday. We'll hear more about that then. And otherwise, things are just going ahead, and various economic developments. For instance, the zoning board did approve warehouses on the tract between Bennett's Lane and Veronica Avenue, which many people will remember was where Jack Morris wanted to put 800 apartments. But now it is going to be developed according to the zoning. They had to get a few minor variances, which is why they had to go to the zoning board. But this sort of development is what that tract has always been zoned for, and it will add further ratables to the township ratable base. And of course, we have some worry about what will happen to the ratable base as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, as I mentioned. So we'll know a little more about that, or at least what may happen about that, when we have this presentation from Todd Poole on Thursday. The Environmental Commission finalized the plastic bag and polystyrene foam and plastic straw ban. They wrote up a full ordinance and have had it delivered to the council, but I gather that we think we shouldn't go ahead with anything controversial until we can get back to having public meetings in the council chambers as we normally have. We just don't get much participation from the public in these virtual meetings. Open space has not met. I think that's all that I can report on. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Councilman Amberson has joined us. Do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to go last so I don't have to report on all the committee meetings that I attended with my fellow council people. The only thing that I wanted to add is that on July 31st, there was a walkout ceremony for Sergeant Kevin Fitzharris, who had served admirably our police department for 26 years. And I got to meet his families and a few other officers there. It was a very, very nice event. Councilman Galtieri was also with me. So that was the first time I attended. It was quite touching to see the officer walk out and, say goodbye to all his fellow police officers. Other than that, I have a quick update from HRC. We have our next meeting on the 26th, and we will have Rabbi Abe Friedman come and talk to us. And as you may have noticed, Rabbi Friedman is the one that is coordinating all the free COVID testing that is currently been going on in the town at various places of worship. And I believe many people are coming out and getting tested for both the COVID-19 as well as for antibody. So if you have not got yet tested, please get tested, Franklin. It is free. It is right in our neighborhood. Take advantage of that as soon as possible. I think we have more testing coming up this week on Cedar Grove at the Ananda Mandir. So please get tested. Other than that, I have nothing else, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Charles Only.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out two things. One is the COVID-19 test in Franklin. The test has helped a lot, significantly, in our community here. A lot of them got tested, and which in turn reduced or flattened the curve. I've noticed that they've called me, and more people are ready to get tested too. So this is very, very good and important too in our community here. So I want to thank all the organizers of this test. They've done greatly on this issue. The second thing I want to point out is I just received a couple of calls from residents. They are complaining that when they park their car and get their car locked for the night, the next morning when they come in, the belongings in their car were taken off. Well, people went into their car and took most of the things they had, their belongings in the car, and the car was locked. So significantly bothers me a little bit. So I just want to bring this up here so that we can take note of that, and everybody will be careful of this type of new trend of robbery. This is what I have to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Amberson, I joined here, but I read the Chihuahua proclamation. When you asked me to do it, I didn't know the names that were on it were going to be so difficult. So I did not name the names. If you know them offhand, you can certainly talk about them. If they were beyond, they're beyond my capabilities. I've just been able to learn Councilman Galtieri's name after what has it been, 4 years? So that's my limitations. Okay, testing. Get tested, Franklin. It's so vitally important that we do. If we want to open our schools, and we've been doing a lot of testing. That's been the focus of my life for the last 3 or 4 weeks, aided a great deal by Alex Garazi, inspired by Assemblyman Danielson. But I've been, I can't count how many Zoom meetings I've been on about it. So far, those efforts have managed to test over 2,500 people. If you add what's going on at First Baptist, we've tested over 3,500 people. Of the 2,500 people, roughly around 15% have tested positive for antibodies. So when you test positive for antibody, what that means is that you have had the virus if the test is accurate. And there are issues with the accuracy of that. Sometimes it becomes positive because you had a different coronavirus, one that causes a cold, and sometimes it's falsely negative. But assuming it's right, roughly 15% of Franklin, if we believe those numbers, have been infected by it. The other thing, and that's the blood test that they do, the test for antibodies. The other thing that they test is the COVID-19 test, and some people refer to it, I refer to it as the PCR test. That's nasal swab or saliva. From the testing we've done, the 2,500, we have found 5 people positive. And that's an amazing number. That's less than 0.5% of people are currently positive. So that's terrific. You've done a great job, Franklin. You've worn your mask. You stayed inside. You stayed away from each other. That's terrific. But remember, the world is infected. There are 20 million people infected, and it started with 1 person. So that's the power of a virus and what it can do. No pun intended, or pun intended, it went viral. That's where the phrase comes from. So 1 person can do it. This is not a time to let down your guard. It's very important that we keep it up. I'm very proud that Franklin has gotten 2,500 tests done, and that I was a major part of organizing that. So we have 2 more tests coming up. One on Thursday, August 13th at the St. Thomas Church. It's at 508 Elizabeth Avenue. It's 1 driveway, or 1 major driveway down. It's a house driveway in between from it and the high school. It's the same side as the high school, 1 major driveway down, and that's from 11 to 7. Both of these are from 11 to 7, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's on August 13th. And go to the town website and sign up for it. You don't have to sign up for it, but signing up for it does 2 things. It gets you a time slot so we don't get a bunch of people coming at once. And also it lets them know how many kits to bring. So the township website will do it, or you can find it at mayorkramer.com. Up near the top in red, click on it and you'll get PDF, and you click on the PDF and it'll get you to the website to sign up. Then on Sunday, August 16th, at the Hindu Temple and Community Center at 269 Cedar Grove, again from 11 to 7. There's more testing available there. Again, please sign up, please come, get tested. This is the way to stomp on the virus. One thing I've been very concerned about is the turnaround time. It's very frustrating. It's a national problem, but I keep kicking my friend, Rabbi Friedman, kicking him politely and saying, let's fix this. And they are diligently working with the labs. They're reserving lab time with them. They're saying, we're going to get X number of tests done. Another reason to pre-register, please have space for us. So they're working on speeding that up. Along those lines, we are also planning to do testing. Our goal is to test every student before they go to school. Every student. We won't reach that goal, I'm sure, but we want to test every student, and not just public high school students, private, parochial, charter schools, whatever. There's an opportunity for every student in Franklin to get tested, and that's going to happen on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. I'm not going to give the details of it because I want the schools to handle the advertising of that. Excuse me. I want the schools to handle the advertising of that so that it gets to the people that we're targeting. Anyone can show up. It's open to anyone, but we really are trying to get the students tested and also faculty, who are going to be tested on the 20th and 21st. We're working on the test means so that we're hoping that it will not be nasal swab for the students, but we're working that out. Mr. Warnocker has some more to address about that. And then last thing is a little birdie told me that the governor will be speaking about school opening tomorrow. So the world could change as with COVID, everything with COVID, things can change suddenly, and we have to be nimble and adjust to that. Let's see if I had any other things. I told you the percentage rate of infections. I did go get tested, and it was an incredibly efficient and safe operation. I viewed another testing site at the James Center. A lot of social distancing. Everyone's wearing masks. So it's a safe place and safe environment, and it's very efficient. You'll be there half an hour. So please get tested, Franklin. That's all I have, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So ironically, so I was tested late last week, and while you were talking about the testing through Friendly Urgent Care, I got the results of my test. They just texted me, and I tested negative. So I don't have COVID right now, which is a good thing. My experience as well was that it was a very professional operation, and it went very smoothly, and I felt very safe there, and I felt as if I was being well taken care of. So now the mayor alluded to the testing of students that is planned for, I guess I believe the week of the 20th, that sometime during that week of the 20th, 22nd, 24th. I know there's a number of dates for one date specifically for staff and family, one date for students and family. All of the public and private schools throughout the township have been invited. And we've had several meetings today. I've had several conversations with Rabbi Friedman about that testing. And the mayor talked about an alternative test to the nasal swab for our students. And what that would entail and what's being pursued right now by the organization doing the testing is a cheek swab. It's not a saliva test. It's a swabbing of the mouth that has been found to be an accurate test for active COVID-19. It has an emergency use authorization from the federal government. And I read some studies, and it seems to be an accurate form of testing for COVID that is far less intrusive, I guess we would say, than the nasal swab, and especially for younger children, might be found to be a more agreeable manner, causing them less anxiety if we could do that. I don't have numbers right now. What I am aware of is that the lab for this particular test cost more than the nasal swabs. There is an additional cost involved in this type of test. And, you know, what the rabbis organization has done up to this point has offered everything at no cost whatsoever to the township or to the people who are having the test done. We have not utilized any of the funds that we set aside that we received from HUD through the CDBG grant. So now we're looking at the possibility of being able to give this particular type of test, but there will be an additional cost. Now, the truth is, my anticipation is that additional cost, if we do any type of significant number of students, saying that, you know, the 2,000 to 3,000 range overall through the township, that the $50,000 grant money that was set aside for testing would not be enough to cover the lab. But what the organization has said to me and the mayor today in meetings is that if there was more than the $50,000 cost for the lab, that they would then just do it in a charitable fashion and absorb the additional cost. So I bring all this up to council because we did have discussions in previous meetings about the CDBG grant money and how it would be utilized. And this is an opportunity for us to utilize that money. We've tested probably far more than I think we ever anticipated already when we talked about this money, and we didn't use any of it. Now we're having an opportunity to get a tremendous amount of students tested before they go back to school. And I think that this would be a good way to utilize that money. We do a test that would be, you know, that would be much more agreeable, so to speak, to the kids. It would be far less intimidating, and hopefully they would have less anxiety. You know, I had the nasal swab, and it is not painful, but it certainly is not comfortable, and it's not something that if I was 8 or 9 years old, I would be looking forward to. And that's why I think that this is a good alternative, and we can get a whole lot of our kids tested and make our school safer. So I'm looking for any feedback from council, if there is any, before I begin to move forward with this, with the organization doing the testing. And I think, Mayor, is that kind of covers our meetings from today? You're muted, Mayor.
Thank you. I have one job and I can't do it. The one thing I always want to caution is on turnaround time. They're pushing hard to basically reserve lab time in advance. But in this day and age of COVID and the national problem of turnaround time, I just always want to caution people, we can't guarantee it. I have told the rabbi countless times that we have to have this back in time so we can make a decision about our schools, and so that we can prevent infected children from going to school, and then also make a decision about whether we're ready to open school. So I do want to caution that, but I think you basically covered it. This is a less invasive way of testing children, which would mean I think we're likely to get more children tested because they won't be afraid, or their parents won't be afraid of testing.
And one other thing, and going to what the mayor just spoke about with the turnaround time, the additional cost for these tests, much of that additional cost goes to the fact that there would be reserved laboratory time to do the processing of the specimens to get the results in a quick turnaround time. That's one of the reasons why there's an additional cost involved.
Well, I'd like to say I think it would be a good use of that CDBG money.
Okay.
Agree.
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, then I will not belabor my report. I do have a couple more things to report on just quickly, but I'll move forward with the organization to see where we can get to, and hopefully we can get the swab tests online and short turnaround times by that weekend. So I think it's third week in August when we do the testing of the students. Next thing I have to talk about is the convenience center on Berry Street. I know that there are people that need to dispose of some debris as a result of the tropical storm. It wasn't a hurricane, Councilman, it was a tropical storm. The convenience center hours have been expanded significantly. The convenience center, let me just bring it up on my phone here because I had it in front of me. The convenience center will now be open tomorrow through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and again on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2:45. And then next week from Monday through Friday, every day open from 7:30 to 2:30 and on Saturday from 8 to 2:45. And then we'll reevaluate the circumstances related to any type of sticks or branches or things that need to be disposed of, and see where we go from there. But right now, that's the plan is to extend the hours to every day, Monday through Saturday, at the convenience center, and there's no cost involved, and there's no passes necessary. You just need to have an identification card showing that you're a township resident. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, there's been a number of questions. I find it interesting sometimes the way things go in cycles. There have been a number of questions this year about the estimated tax bills that everyone received. This is certainly not the first time we have had estimated taxes and estimated tax bills. But I guess that everyone, with all that's going on in the world and people being home much more, given time to think about things, we've gotten a number of questions. Why did we get an estimated tax bill? What does this mean? My mortgage company pays my taxes through escrow. Well, let me say this. Every property owner in Franklin Township, and for that matter, in the state of New Jersey, no matter who pays your taxes, gets a copy of the tax bill. That's how you know how much taxes you pay. So we make sure that everyone gets a copy of the tax bill. Now, I guess it kind of threw everyone for a loop because this was estimated and it was only for the third quarter taxes and not for the full 4-quarter tax bill that you would ordinarily receive. The reason why you all got a tax bill is before we can issue an official tax bill, the tax rate must be certified by the county tax administrator. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, everything got delayed, and state law requires that tax bills be issued no later than July 31st of the calendar year. So we had to prepare bills and we had to put them in envelopes and get everything ready so that we could have everything mailed out by the 30th, which was a Friday. We mailed out the estimated tax bills, and we now have a certified tax rate. I will tell everyone that the certified tax rate we were right. The estimated bills are correct, and nothing will be changed. Your third quarter bill was your third quarter bill, and you will now get another tax bill. Everyone will get a tax bill. Those of you who have your taxes paid by your mortgage company or your bank because you have a mortgage and it's paid through escrow, if you receive a tax bill that says this is a bill, then you need to contact your mortgage company to notify our tax collector's office to provide the bank routing number so that we have the bank number on file so that we send you an advice bill going forward. If you get a bill that says this is not a bill, this is for your advice only, that's what everyone in the town gets when their mortgage company or bank pays their taxes. So I kind of hope that clears things up a little. If you have internet access and you're not just watching this on TV, there are FAQs about the tax bill that were added to the Township's website. The link is on the collector's page as well as the home page. And certainly if you have any other questions, you can always call me. I'm in the office every day and you can give me a call. And if I don't answer the phone, I'll get my voicemail and I'll give you a call back about why your tax bill is the way it is. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Okay, we are on to
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
I forgot to mention on Friday, Councilwoman Pruitt and Dr. Chase, I believe at some point we wanted to take a walk around the park in the afternoon. So if anybody wants to take a walk with us, please email me and I'll give you the time that we'll set up to walk around the park. That's it.
Okay, thank you for that. We're on to item number 9, council discussion items. There are none. We are on to number 10, approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes of Township Council for approval. Township Council work session, regular meeting, July 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections?
The only question I have is, it says at the top, due to COVID-19 public health emergency, the June 23rd, 2020 township meeting.
Sorry.
So we need to amend that.
Yep.
Motion to amend.
Motion.
That was a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of amending, say aye.
Aye.
And now, do we have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
We've been seconded. All in favor, oh, we already did that, sorry.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do a roll call.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is
Roll call.
carried.
Roll call.
Oh, that's right, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Woman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
on to item number 11, approval of the warrants. Warrants in the amount of $38,735,458.79 on August 11, 2020, are presented to the Township Council for payment.
I move that the warrants as read be paid.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any changes, any questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes. Yes.
It is passed. We will pay our bills. Item number 12, public hearing and adoption of ordinance on second reading, ordinance 4328-20, an ordinance releasing, extinguishing, and vacating the rights of a public street known as Fairmont Street in the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
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 Say nay. If you're opposed, motion is carried. We open to the public on this item only. Mr. McQueen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're asking anybody that wishes to speak on this public hearing only to either hit *3 from your telephone or in the chat window, the raise hand feature, and we will call on you.
I don't see anybody doing that.
I do not see anybody, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, motion, close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
Wait. Ms. Saba has, well, she had her hand up for a second. And now she's put her hand down. So, okay, we have
Mr.
a
Mayor,
motion
she was
and a second.
indicating that she wanted to speak on public comment, which I have told her has been closed and we are unable to reopen it, and that this is only on this hearing.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public session is closed. We're now, so that was a second reading. That's where we vote on the final adoption. We have a public session for that. Before that, we have a first reading, and the purpose of the first reading is to announce to the public that we're going to have a public hearing in the future on it. So we have one first reading in ordinance 4329-20, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin County, Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of conservation easement from Somerset Hotel LLC to the Township of Franklin for premises known as Block 467, Lot 1.4, Route 287 and Davidson Avenue. Foregoing ordinances presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting and publication in accordance with law, the public hearing and final adoption at a virtual meeting of the Township Council via WebEx on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Mr. Mayor, before we go on to that, we didn't vote on the second reading of the ordinance.
You did it?
No, we
No.
did not.
No, we didn't. You just voted to close.
Sorry about that. I was on mute and I was saying we have to vote on the second reading. I apologize.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would propose a motion for ordinance 432820 for passage of that.
Okay, I obviously need nap time. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
I guess we should call the roll.
Yes.
Roll.
Councilman Harrison,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Oni Jaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, can you reread the next ordinance all over again also?
Silly mayor, do I have to read the whole thing again, Mr.?
No.
Yes.
Yes, if I'm on mute, you do.
Ordinance, so this is a first reading and it's an ordinance for a conservation easement, 4329, for the Township of Franklin, authorizing the acceptance of concept easement from Somerset Hotel LLC to the Township of Franklin for the premises known as Block 467, Lot 1.04, Route 287 and Davidson Avenue. And it's been posted, and we're going to have a WebEx virtual council meeting where you can speak about it and watch the mayor mess up again on September 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Motion.
Do we have a motion to introduce? Do we have one? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? I can read it again. Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Harrison,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Oni Jaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
We're on to the consent agenda. Yes, we are. Consent agenda. The items A through AE is listed on the consent agenda. Portion of this meeting are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone like to pull an item or discuss an item?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The first one on the consent agenda, I know we've gone through it before. Some people might know, but just in case they don't know, and what the cost is, I would like our township manager, if you will, explain that for us.
So item A?
Yes, I'm sorry, item A.
That's what I was saying. Which item are you talking about? So we could talk about A and B because they kind of go together, same thing. So the Township of Franklin, because we are rather large compared to some other municipalities around us, is able to afford certain services, afford to provide certain services to some of our smaller neighbors. In particular, this one is the Borough of Millstone. The Borough of Millstone, a very small town, does not have the facilities to have a municipal court or to have animal control. And we enter into a shared service agreement with them whereby they pay us for a service that our staff provides. In this case, we provide a space, the municipal court and the municipal court staff and the judge and prosecutor and public defender, and they pay us for that as a result of this agreement. And likewise, they pay us for animal control services as well.
Thank you, Mr. Von Locker.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Mayor?
Any other items to be discussed or pulled? Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Barrison,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Oni Jaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Item number 15 is resolutions to be voted on separately. We have item number 16 is old business, 2020 boards, committees, commissions, and vacancies. Do we have any nominations? Hearing and seeing none. Item number 17, we have no executive session. And item number 18, of adjournment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.
Franklin.
Good night, everybody.